All right, it's time to talk a little lacrosse because
Love it.
it
You
is
gotta be
game
so
day.
fired up.
Oh my gosh, the Terps! The Terps are coming through for me. I used to love going to lacrosse games at Maryland. It was so fun, so competitive, and I'd never seen lacrosse like that before. You know, I grew up down in the Baltimore area. It's a hub of lacrosse, but these guys play at a completely different level. And if you haven't seen college lacrosse before, it's something to marvel at.
I've seen it grow so quickly in my time in this business, where they used to hold the Final Fours at Byrd Stadium. I used to go there to cover that.
Yeah.
And it was like, you could just walk up and say, hey, can we bring a camera in there? Yeah, come on in. Yeah, sure. Oh, wow, you want to cover this? Whereas now it is a major event. It's just like the NCAA Final Four in basketball or the college football playoff. It is a huge event with stadiums packed wherever they play. And they're playing in football stadiums.
Right.
Whether it be Foxborough or the Raven Stadium, wherever, Philadelphia. They're playing in front of major crowds and national television. It's great to see.
It's incredible to see. And speaking of that, we're going to bring in our guest right now. Chris Marshall joins us right now from the LAC Sports Network. Hey, Chris, good morning. How you feeling this Monday?
I'm excited, getting ready to head it up to Foxborough myself.
Yeah, and we're all excited, too, because it's fantastic to see.
She's really excited, Chris.
Well, I'm a Terp, so for me, this means a lot. Both of these teams, but let's start on the women's side because they have been absolutely dominant. This team has now won 3 of the last 4 championships and a total of 4 under Kathy Reese. What has made this team so dominant in your eyes?
Well, I mean, you look at the talent they have and obviously the coaching. I mean, Kathy Reese now has 11 rings as a player, assistant, and head coach. I mean, she's like Locash. She's got a ring for every finger, so you know that she's legit. But you take a look at what she brings to the table. The closest comparison I have is what Gino Auriemma does at UConn. They have the most talent every year, but the fact that they can get all of those players to buy in with the way the Terps want to play, unselfishly, let anyone who's hungry eat at the table. That's what they're able to do. That's the most important part for me. It's not having the most talent and being the best recruiter. It's getting all of those #1 players from high school to play as a team.
Tell you what, Chris, bring the knowledge there, huh? I love it. I love it, Chris. By the way, we saw every time the Terps would score, Boston College would come right back and counter. How were the Terps able to ultimately hold off BC?
Well, I mean, you look at their squad, and they're so complete. You look at every statistical category of this game. Boston College played them straight up, maybe as well as anybody played them all season, except for in the goal. You see an additional 4 saves for Megan Taylor for the Terps, and that was the difference for them. You look at Kenzie Kent on the Boston College side. She tied the record for most points in a championship game with 10. She actually played in the Frozen Four for BC's hockey team as well. So if she had played the full season, she might be in the conversation for the Tewaaraton, but unfortunately didn't qualify. But she was averaging near 7 points a game, just behind the record-setting pace of Kylie Ohlmiller.
Yeah, it's incredible watching this team. They are so dominant. As you see, completing their perfect season there, 23-0, their 3rd title in 4 years. Caroline Steele, a really big part of that, as she scored 6 goals, tying the NCAA championship record. She's only a sophomore, so do you see this team slowing down at any point in the future?
I mean, they don't even take time to reload. I mean, this team has more talent, like I said, than anybody else out there. And you talk about Steele, and she was spectacular in the title game, no doubt. But I'm not even sure she's the best player they're bringing back. You look at what Megan Whittle did this season. She's going to star for Team England in the World Championships this summer. She had 71 goals this season to lead the team. She's lights out. But I think maybe the most important players are Hartshorn, who led the team in draw controls at over 100, and Megan Taylor in the cage. She was playing like a senior more than a sophomore. You saw her calming down the team right when things were getting tight in the second half. This team is absolutely loaded, and I know they're just going to get better with this recruiting class.
And then you get to the men. They are going for a national championship for a 3rd straight year after losing the last 2. But they go up against a team in Ohio State that doesn't really have the experience like the Terps. How much will that factor into today's game?
Well, I think it would have been a bigger factor had they matched up in the semifinals. Now that you're there, you're through the first half of Super Bowl week. You're ready. You've talked to the media. You've been there. You've seen the crowd, 30,000 plus in attendance for that first game. So I think that one was more important. I think what you look at here is the experience in the games leading up to it. Maryland hasn't trailed since the 4th quarter of that Big Ten championship game against Ohio State. They've had the opportunity to maybe rest some of their guys and go out there, whereas on the other side, you really needed to fight back to win that game against Towson if you're Ohio State, and we'll see what that does for them in terms of the gas they have left in the tank.
Matt Rambo, a huge part of this team than why they've been able to be successful. He became the all-time leading scorer in the semifinals against Denver. What does Matt need to do in this game in order for this team to win?
Honestly, he's just got to keep doing what he's doing. That was a huge milestone for him to get past Joe Walters for the all-time goals lead. And you look at what he's able to do. If he's able to get them off the schneid here and win for the first time since 1975, I think that he might go down as the greatest Terp of all time. He had 8 points in each of the first 2 games of the playoffs, just 2 points in the last game. He's as big as a calming force in the locker room and on the field as he is as a point getter. So as long as he continues to play at the level he's playing at, I think it might be a good day for the Terps.
As far as Ohio State, who are the players to look out for on that side?
I mean, you look at Trey LeClaire, you look at Withers, and you also look at Fennell. Another guy to keep an eye out is Austin Shanks. He was the leading scorer from last season, found his way outside of the rotation with Trey LeClaire coming in. He's another guy that really sparked, I think, the comeback for them against Towson. He was on the end of that goal, this one right here, in fact, that he scored, and that's the one that I think really broke the seal and got them rolling.
You know, when you talk about this Maryland team, especially for the past 2 seasons, going to the finals, but not being able to be victorious, what's been the one thing that's stopping them from getting over the hump?
I mean, it's hard to argue with anything but curse at this point, but you look at this squad, this group of seniors have been there 4 straight years to the championship. Tillman 0-5 in championship games so far, but I think the experience is finally starting to tilt in their favor. They've run into some really, really good teams, but the fact that they were able to shut down what in my mind was the greatest face-off season in the history of lacrosse and Trevor Baptiste and get him back to 50%, make him look human, makes me think that anything is possible for this Terp squad.
How often do we see it, Chris, where both the men and the women from that same school win a title?
You know, it doesn't happen all that often. Last year it happened, so it's sort of coincidental that you're asking the question with UNC winning both. But before that, it was Princeton all the way back in the 90s. So it is unusual, but not unheard of, especially when you've got teams like Maryland and UNC who are so good athletically.
Maryland and Ohio State faced each other already twice this season. Each team took a victory, and they were close, and that obviously is going to have some sort of an effect on this game. What sort of an effect do you believe it will have, and also how do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, I mean, those were great games. An OT game during the regular season, a 1-goal game during the conference championship. My feeling on this one is that it's not going to be quite as close. I mean, you look at these teams. I think that Ohio State had to give up a lot of energy to come back in that Towson game. And if they dig themselves a hole like this Terps, like they did against Towson, this Terps team is going to make them pay. So I think it's going to be tough to go out there and play a close game once again. It's hard to beat a team twice. It's harder to beat a team 3 times. When you see them that many times, you know what they've got. You know the players they have. And if they can take it to Trevor Baptiste, I certainly think that they can take at least 50% from Jake Withers.
See, it's going to be nervous moments there for Alexa here, Chris, as she is hopeful that she can get the double there and finally get the men off the schneid there. I want to ask you about some video that was going around on the internet and on social media all weekend long. They're in Foxborough, the home field of the New England Patriots, and, well, look who was out there playing lacrosse and playing some catch there with the boys. How about Bill Belichick? Can you assess his and grade and rate his form?
Bill Belichick, it's great. He was out there. He talked to all of the teams. He's out there having a toss with a couple of the guys. It's great to see him out there. He's obviously a big lacrosse fan, daughter head coach at Holy Cross. But you look at what he's doing. He notoriously will say that nobody knows whether he's a lefty or righty. I don't know if the form on either side is particularly good, but I love the fact that he's out there. I think that's the most important part, and he really opens up when he's out on the lacrosse field. It's not the same Bill Belichick you get at press conferences about football when it's all work. This is pure fun for him, and it's a joy to see him out there.
Chris, you're a sharp dresser. You got the dress shirt with the bow tie on. How would you grade Bill Belichick's outfit out there on the field?
It was a dress-up, button-up, right?
I'll give him a 10. I like it. It's important to be predictable. You know exactly what you're going to get with Bill Belichick, and you know that he's important because I don't know how else he got his hands on Yeezy Season 5 so early with that cut-off sweatshirt. But I love seeing him out there. Got to make sure he doesn't mess up the dress shirt before his next big meeting. I think it's a perfect fit for Bill Belichick.
I know. Anybody else who wears a cut-off sweatshirt, you probably razz him, but that's Bill Belichick's uniform, so it fits.
I think one of the best things that I heard this weekend was him talking about to this team, they were asking for advice, and he was like, listen, it doesn't matter that your team hasn't won since the 70s. You weren't part of the team in the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, even the 2000s. You weren't even around for those years, so don't act like you have to carry that burden. This is a fresh, brand new team, and it sounded like fantastic advice. What did you think about Bill Belichick's advice to this team?
I mean, I think that's great advice. I mean, you can't carry the weight of the past players. You got to go out there. This senior class has won more games than any senior class in the history of Maryland lacrosse. So you look at what they've been able to accomplish so far. They're already great players. They don't need to worry about what happened last week. They don't need to worry about what happened last season or 40 years ago. This is a team that's looking to win today, and I love the advice.
All right, so are you going to go with Maryland? And if so, what's the final score in today's game?
I like Maryland in this game, and I think they're going to take it 14-10.
14-10.
Wow.
Football score right there at Foxborough. Fitting. All right. Good stuff, Chris.
Yeah.
You made Alexa's day.
That's right. Enjoy your travels up to Foxborough, Chris. Appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thank you.
All right. Good stuff. How about the Terps, huh?
Man, we're getting my day off started really well. I appreciate that.
All right. National championships
Thank you.
for both the women and the men.
Oof. I'd like to
the
see
women,
it.
that's guaranteed.
That's guaranteed.
That's
That's
it.
over.
The men, we'll see if they
They're
can break
celebrating.
I didn't realize it was a 42-year stretch there.
75 since 1975. Yeah.
All right.
A long time.
We'll see. We'll see if the Terps can do it. All right.